Hi, I'm Carly.
And I'm Lars, and the article we chose is Will Consumers Find Vertically Farmed Produce Out of Reach? And this was found on the Choices website.
Sustainability in agriculture. Food is essential for everyday living. Therefore, agriculture must be sustained. Our population has been anticipated to grow to 9.7 billion by the year of 2050. Currently, 13.5 million people worldwide are suffering from undernourishment, even with the abundance of food grown annually. This percentage of the population is either 1. Unable to afford food, 2. Unable to grow food or do not have access to prosperous land or other farming resources, or thirdly, they reside in areas where food allocation is poor and they have no access to nutritional food sources. In order for agriculture to be sustained and food to be properly distributed, technology and new methods need to be implemented. A new alternative may be vertical farming. The practice of vertical farming involves stacking layers of crop rows vertically. The most common vertically farmed plants are leafy greens. We will be basing our PowerPoint on lettuce. Plants grown on a vertical farm are grown with the use of aeroponics and LED lighting. The controlled indoor environment permits the management of plant nourishment, size, color, shape, etc. The indoor environment also allows for year-round crop production. Vertically farmed lettuce has been shown to grow quicker than field lettuce, taking just half of the time. There are no negative effects on the environment from vertical farming. However, it is costly because of the energy used from the LED lighting. Positive feedback regarding vertically farmed lettuce from the previous survey includes a higher yielding lettuce than in comparison to field farmed lettuce. There's year-round production, and all produce is chemical-free. There's already a marketplace for vertically farmed lettuce. The entire process is highly innovative and efficient. However, consumers may still be wary to purchase anything grown on a vertical farm, even though appearance and taste-wise they are virtually the same as those grown in a field or a greenhouse. Consumers are always going to be very cautious about what they consume and what they feed their families.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about the underlying economics about vertical farming. So as Carly said, the global population is growing and growing, and we need to increase our supply so that we are able to feed the world. This is where vertical farming comes in. Um, with the growing population, there seems to be more and more people who are interested in locally grown food and food that's organic, non-GMO. So this is where vertical farming will be able to put that locally grown food on it, and will catch a higher price at the market. In the U.S., farmers market have grown by 226% from 1996 to 2012, with sales reaching $1.3 billion. So there's definitely a market demand for vertically grown lettuce. And once consumers understand the process behind it, the hydroponics, controlled environment, no insecticides, it's going to catch on very quick, we believe, and it's going to help increase our food supply. The advantages of selling produce locally. Producers who sell vegetables locally have a profit of $1,138 per acre, compared to producers who sell commercially only profit $590 per acre. And that's taken from McFadden 2015. So these vertical farms are going to be set up outside of city centers, so our transportation costs are significantly decreased, which allows for a larger profit margin. Increase in the world food production is a big thing that many people have been talking about, and with these vertical farms, if we can set them up around city centers, they are very efficient in producing lettuce at high yields per acre. Initial startup costs are high, but selling their local produce so we can get the higher price for them in the market. Here we have a little graph showing this is supply one of food, and with vertical farming, this is going to help alleviate some of the pressure on conventional farms. With the increase in food production from vertical farms, we'll see a demand shift from supply one to supply two in the marketplace. So here we have some comparisons of vertical farms to greenhouses and to field farming. You can easily see that vertical farming advantages, you have year-round production, there's a very high yield per acre, and a controlled environment which minimizes the need for pest control such as insecticides. Water use is pretty much the same as greenhouses. Vertical farming disadvantages, there's a high energy cost to keep for the lighting to keep them running, and it's also a very high capital investment to start. And you can see for production, vertical farming has a huge advantage. They can produce 5 million heads of lettuce an acre per year, compared to greenhouses can only produce 1,600,000 heads of lettuce per year, and your field farming you're only getting around 50,000 heads of lettuce per year. So a big advantage in increasing the supply of food, which is going to be needed in the future. So supply and demand for locally grown produce. Demand has been increasing at a constant rate for the past 10, 15 years. Um, the consumers demand a product that is locally grown, and they want to know exactly how it was grown, and they're very conscious about their food supply. So here's a graph. We see the quantity demanded is blue here is the original one, and with the increasing demand, we see it shift to D1, and this shows us our equilibrium price will increase per head of lettuce once supply can meet demand, which is what vertical farms will help to do at a very efficient manner. So implications for agriculture. Starting vertical farms requires a very high capital investment. I mean, you got to find a warehouse, your lights and hydroponics. They do not come cheap. Once you set up everything and start to pay it off, it's not too terrible. And you save money on labor because you don't need as many people working as on a conventional farm. The largest cost incurred is energy to keep the lights powered during operations, and vertical farms are feasible on a smaller scale, we think. If you just set up some small ones around big city centers and kind of get the word out about them and people know about it, then I can see it becoming larger and larger. But for now, I think keeping it on a smaller scale will be good until consumers are 100% behind it and understand on it. With these vertical farms being close to city centers, you can say it's locally grown produce, and you're cutting down on your transportation costs because you're right next to the city, and your pest control costs are pretty much zero because you're in a controlled environment. And vertical farming is going to increase the world food supply, which is needed. So for one of the biggest things for vertical farming to be feasible in the market is they need a higher price for their lettuce than lettuce that is grown in greenhouses or in field farming. So here's a little graph. We see at point A would be the equilibrium price for vertically grown lettuce, and the price for lettuce needs to be at point B, but at point B we see the demand for lettuce will decrease at a higher price. But this higher price at B is needed for vertical farming because even though they have a very high yield per acre, the price to get that high yield is higher than what you would see in greenhouses or vertical farming. And from the article, that's kind of the big point that consumers are hung up on, is that their view of it is that vertical farming has such a high yield per acre that they must be able to produce this at a very cheap price, which is false. So that's one big thing that we need to educate the consumer about, is the process behind vertical farming and the actual costs, so we can get that price shift from A to B to make selling and growing vertical lettuce feasible. So the conclusion of implications for agriculture, and just a conclusion overall on vertically farmed lettuce, this is going to help alleviate the pressure on heavily strained food supply with an increasing population. These vertical farms are going to be very efficient. They use less land, labor, and insecticides overall. They do come with a high capital investment and a constant uh, energy bill to keep the LED lights running during the day and night. Um, Me and Carly think that these are very feasible on a smaller scale, close to city centers, and put it up in an old warehouse, and the yield you get per year is not even comparable to greenhouses and to field farming. It's just getting that high initial capital investment out of the way and educating the producer on the process that goes behind it. And even though that there is a very high yield in production, that doesn't mean that the cost is much less than greenhouses and field farming. The cost of producing this is much higher. But with the locally grown lettuce, and you market it that way, you should be able to get a higher price for it. And vertically farmed lettuce are going to be the thing for the future. Thank you.